You know, I think when we talk about development curves in the NHL, some people think that like if a player isn't made it by like a certain age, that's it, they're done. Those players aren't, or those people, sorry, aren't completely wrong, but there are some outliers here. We're going to be talking about how that relates to the Vancouver Canucks and more news and rumors around them today, guys. But welcome back to Pixel Plus Hockey. If you can make sure to hit that subscribe button, it would be so greatly appreciated. And thank you so much to those that are already supporting me as well. And listen, I like when teams do what I call out of the box things. So if you have something that you think might work, you might as well take a swing at it. Like why not? If you're going to try to, fix your center position, try to get creative. If you need more offensive depth and you think a player might break out, try to sign an underrated player that you think can honestly make a difference on your team. And this is when we talk about Vitali Kravtsov. This is a player that had a really good season in the KHL. I think he was like 6th in points or something. Now, I understand that he hasn't had a lot of NHL success. However, when players have really good seasons in the KHL, it's obviously not a guarantee that he's going to be great in the NHL. That's not what I'm saying. But that is an indicator that like maybe he can develop up to a point where he can play a good role on an NHL squad. And here we have a really interesting quote from the Canucks Army. Kravtsov, 25, last NHL games were played as a member of the Canucks at the end of the 22-23 season. Following a trade from the New York Rangers, Kravtsov spent the last season with his KHL club, where he put up 27 goals and 31 assists through 66 games played. His 58 points ranked 6th in the KHL in scoring last season. Close quote. So yes, what I was saying, I actually looked that up and I was like, wow, he actually had a really, really, really good season in the KHL. Now, I'm not going to mention any specific people that I saw online and YouTubers and, popular Twitter accounts. They were all scratching their head at this signing. And I was like, guys, the Vancouver Canucks are trying to be creative here. Now, is this going to work out? Maybe it might have a 25% chance, 30% chance of working out. But that doesn't mean you don't swing on it. This is actually a decent bet for the Vancouver Canucks. Here we have another interesting quote right here. Vitali had a strong season in the KHL and was an impact player for his team, said Canucks GM Patrick Elvin via a statement. In his 2 seasons in Russia, he worked hard on his game, and we look forward to seeing where Vitali is at when he comes to training camp in Penticton. Close quote. So the GM, all they're doing here is saying, hey, we think this guy has improved up to a certain point. Now, I'm going to talk about the ways that this might fall through. When we talk about the KHL and the NHL, the KHL is a pretty talented league. It's about on par with the American Hockey League. Where the NHL is difficult for players to come is you have to make decisions really, 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 really fast. Frank Corrado, he's actually a great analyst, and he touched on this, where as a defenseman, not that Kravtsov is a defenseman, but he was talking about how quickly gut forwards will get on you, and you have to make that decision pass out of the zone very quickly. And it's the same for forwards, even if you're a winger. You got to make decisions in the NHL so quickly, and that's what makes it one of the hardest leagues for almost any hockey players, even talented ones, to find success. Now, shifting gears on this, I wanted to talk about potential solutions for the Vancouver Canucks center position. Not that they're horrible down the middle. I mean, they still have Pettersson, they still have Hedl, but they do need to get creative there, and there's other ways to do that. And one of those might be Atu Ratu, right? Like, this is a guy that he's been pretty good in the American Hockey League, right? And his last season in the AHL has been actually quite impressive. The funny thing is, in 24-25, he actually had 7 goals in 33 games, showing that he at least can play at an NHL level. When it comes to this player, I look at him as a player that probably will be an NHL player. It's interesting. I'm pretty sure he dropped like the 2nd round. This is a player that a lot of scouts thought was going to go like inside of the top 10, but he had like a really weird draft year. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the Islanders scooped him up. And honestly, the Canucks getting him was just a great get. he had a very successful season. He was right about a point per game. Now he's 22 years old. And one thing that I look for in the American Hockey League is how good is a player at a certain age. So as a player gets older, 25, 26, 27, 28, and they have really good AHL seasons, it doesn't necessarily mean as much as you think. But when players are younger, like around 21, 22, having very good AHL seasons, that is pretty promising. Now, he can play center, right? He has some ability to do that, but I'm not necessarily convinced he'll be able to do that consistently in the National Hockey League just yet. Again, I could be wrong, but we'll have to see. You know, it's funny. I remember when the Vancouver Canucks got him, I was actually really unreasonably excited for them because, I mean, no, not unreasonably, he's a good prospect, but I was like, this is a guy that they targeted, and like this is going to pay credence for them in the future. And just shifting gears again, we actually did get an update on Elias Pettersson and his training. He's actually saying that his training is going very, very well, which is excellent. It's interesting. He's talking about that there's actually no injury that's holding him back this offseason. So he's going to get in like full training this season. This is going to be one of the biggest wild cards for the Canucks this upcoming season, is how Elias Pettersson performs. Quinn Hughes is going to have a good season unless he gets injured, God forbid. You know, we know he's going to have a good season. He's good every single year. Elias Pettersson needs to be an 80-point player. If he can do that, I think the Canucks can make the playoffs, and their goaltending holds. Obviously, you need Demko to be good. You need Lankinen to be good. They have two good goalies, I think, but they I don't like how much they tied up on their cap in their goalies, but it is what it is. But again, it just is what it is, that he is always going to be the biggest wild card. You know what? I'll save the question of the video right for the end of the video. What is the biggest wild card for the Vancouver Canucks this season? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Is it only going to be goaltending? Let me know in the comments below. But guys, if you could make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it, guys. And make sure to have a great day. Goodbye, guys.